All right, we got 9 o'clock. Does everybody have one of the letters or handouts that we have in front of them? And there's not really going to be a need to read along, but it's going to be something that you can take with you. If you haven't received one, all of our customers should have received one in the mail, and I'm sure that the school mailroom got it right to your desk. So, welcome. My name is Chris Leffingwell. I'm with the VIP Technology Solutions Group Services. Come on in. How are you this morning? So, how many of you have heard of Kari's Law or Baum's Act? How many of you went, what the heck? Right? Yeah, I did. This affects everyone, schools, governments, businesses, hotels, hospitality, golf courses that have multi-line telephone systems. Whether it's hosted, whether it's premise-based, doesn't matter. All right? These rules apply to everyone. So, the bill was signed into law. There was a family that was at a hotel in Texas, Kari Hunt, and she was actually being murdered in the hotel. Her daughter was actually in the room. Her 9-year-old daughter was not aware that you had to dial a prefix or a trunk access code to dial out from that hotel room. So the Kari lay there essentially dying for 45 minutes before the daughter was able to contact somebody outside the hotel room and get help. First responders came in, and what they decided was, had that window of time not passed, the mother probably would have survived. So the family took that forward, and as a result, it was it actually was in 2018 that the law passed. There were some FCC committee meetings, and at the bottom of your letter, you actually have a link to that FCC. I believe that's right. Did we leave that on there? Yeah, we took it off. Okay. What we'll do is I'll actually put a link to the FCC committee notes, and we'll put that link on our website for you guys to access. All right, that's what you're going to do later. So anyway, what the FCC committee meetings took place for about 6 to 12 months. They came out with the interpretations of the rules and laws. In the meantime, as a result, Baum, who was a congressman, said, wait a minute. It was a hotel, there's a lot of room. How would they have known which room to go to, right? So what that resulted in was Baum's Act. It actually was supposed to take effect in September of last year, September 26th, I believe. They became coterminous because they were so closely aligned in terms of what they did. What Baum's Act was, it essentially has some language and some rules that say, specific address information has to be dispatchable. A callback number for 911, if the call is disconnected, that has to be available, et cetera, et cetera. So let's start with Kari's Law. Kari's Law, and I apologize for the screen. We have kind of a problem with the conversion of the video signal. Again, we're going to have this available for if somebody wants it, email us, or we'll put it on the website as a PDF. You guys can download it. Kari's Law requires multi-line telephone systems to be configured to dial 911 in 3 keystrokes, right? No prefix. Pick up the phone or hit speakerphone, dial 911. There are actually some systems that you actually just dial 911. You don't even have to grab pick up the phone or hit a speakerphone. Avaya is one of those. And you dial 911 and it calls 911. So essentially no additional prefix, nothing else, just 911. Obviously activating the handset somehow is going to be a requirement of some sets. It also requires that when a 911 call is made that there is an internal notification, all right? That means a lot of y'all are system administrators, so you'll either have some kind of a text or email or some notification that is sent to you saying, hey, there was a 911 call made. At that point, you have the option to say it was made from this building, this address, this location, et cetera. It can be dispatched as part of that. If you have campus safety, some of the bigger districts like Union or Broken Arrow Jenks have their own safety or campus police, if you will, that they've opted to have those notifications go to that organization first, and then maybe they have like a CERT team or something along those lines that it goes to. Point is, you have to have some kind of a notification internally that's sent from either your phone system or some other means if you have some kind of mass notification system. This law became effective February 16th of this year. All right, so the components of Kari's Law that we've just talked about are anything that is imported, installed, configured, moved from one location to another physically, if the address changes, the rules apply at time of move or install or sale or importation, et cetera, that it has to fit all of these criteria from that point forward. Prior to that, there does appear to be an exception to Kari's law. It doesn't specifically list an exception. It doesn't say you are exempt in this case. It does say you must meet all these criteria unless your system requires a hardware or software, a significant hardware or software upgrade. And it kind of leaves it open-ended at that point. So the assumption is, okay, well, if I have to make a significant hardware or software upgrade, I don't have to meet these criteria except for new stuff that's installed. Now, that's where the disclaimer comes in, right? Contact your own legal counsel about that question, because we are not going to be the ones to determine why you need to do this, whether or not it applies to you, or is this really an exception. The FCC did seem to remain a little vague, especially in their, as you read through the, I think it was about 600 pages of notes that I finally wound up going through. But as you read through there, it does kind of tap dance around there being, whether it's an exception or grandfather clause or something along those lines. So again, contact whoever your school or organization's legal counsel and run that by them. How do you test your system, right? Pick up the phone, you can call 933 and it's going to say, hey, this is yours. Is that right, Mark, 933?
Yes.
You can pick up your phone and call 933. One, did that work? So your phone system may be set up to dial 911 without picking up an outside line, but it may not be able to dial 933 without see the difference. So our suggestion is go ahead and dial 911. The first thing you tell the operator when they answer is, this is whoever. My name is Chris Leffingwell. I'm with VIP. I'm testing the compliance of our phone system with Kari's law. They are used to this by now. They have had dozens or hundreds or millions of phone calls with this information. What you want to do is confirm, here's the address I'm calling from. Would you please confirm that that is the address that you are seeing? Now, you may at that point have the option to say, would you try to call me back at this number? Now, that's not part of Kari's law. That's going to be part of Baum's Act, but it is something that you're going to need to address here that we'll talk about in just a second. So call them up. This is Chris. I'm testing compliance with Kari's law. Would you please confirm my address? I'm calling from this address. If it's not set up, then you need to take appropriate steps, obviously, to clarify that or clear that up. If you need our help, we can definitely help you. If it's a hosted system through, say, a Ring Central or 8x8 or somebody like that, you're going to have to contact, or if you have your own portal, obviously you have to contend with that and use whatever the appropriate format for dealing with the technical aspects of that. Okay, let's go on to, now we're going to move on to Baum's Act. That covers, let me pause for just a second. Does anybody have any questions so far? I'm supposed to get in the camera. Okay, good to go. All right, Baum's Act. It became effective the same day, as we talked about earlier. It basically made them coterminous February 16, 2020. Good morning, Kari. Baum's Act. So this is the sticky part, right? These do not appear to have any exceptions. These apply to everyone with multi-line telephone systems, regardless of when it's installed, regardless of how old it is. These aspects seem to be concrete, and I'm gonna leave myself a little bit of wiggle room because we are not going to be somebody's attorney here. Requires a conveyance of a dispatchable location to the public safety answering point, which is PSAP, during 911 calls, regardless of platform used. PSAP is essentially whatever your local 911 call center is. If you happen to dial 911 to test your system and they say, well, what city and state are you calling from? All right, that has happened to a couple of our customers. That means there is no address assigned to your system. And that means you've reached a national call center. All right, go ahead and tell them Tulsa, Oklahoma, wherever you're calling from, they will connect to your local center. They are not going to be able to confirm your address because there is no address assigned. That's why you went to a national call center. So somebody had the forethought to go, well, let's have them connect to something that we can get them to the right place. But that tells you definitely have an issue with your addressing that needs to be addressed, resolved at some level. Additional information such as room number, floor number, or similar information necessary to identify the location of the calling party may be required for compliance. This is where you get into some flexibility as far as what's dispatched. Multi-users, MLTS, multi-user telephone system users are afforded flexibility in deciding the level of detail included in the location information to PSAPs, so long as the level of detail is functionally sufficient. By functionally sufficient, can a 911 first responder find the location of that phone call? So let's use a larger school district, or if you wanted to use a hotel, but there's going to be some, if it says East Campus, and East Campus has 12 buildings, right? That's not going to be sufficient. So if East Campus has 12 buildings and they're lettered A through whatever, then, and building B is where the problem is, and building B always has a receptionist in that building who's gonna know that 911 was called and who's gonna know where the problem is. First responder comes in the door, where's the issue, they can take you where the issue is. You've essentially achieved the spirit of this law. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, anybody have any questions as far as that? I hope I'm being clear on that. Okay, so I think everybody gets it. Hey, I can program this up to whatever level applies to. Now you see where it's each individual school district or individual business or whatever. They're gonna have to kind of figure out what best meets functional requirements in their specific set of criteria. So as you put those addresses together, it may come down to a point where you say, okay, there are some teachers who work after hours and we have access control that they can card in and out, and they may leave here at 7:30 and there's nobody else in this building. So if they call 911 from East Campus, Building B, second floor, room 207, if they're the first responder that shows up after hours, they're going to need to know all of that information. So if that's you, that's what you need to consider as you build those addressing schemes. And then in addition to that, you're going to have some kind of a mapping, that's going to have to be available for first responders, that you're going to have to figure out how to implement that when they walk through the door of a building. All right, how can they go find some kind of a legend that shows them where to go? All right, so the reason these laws were enacted, the reason these things were put in place, obviously for better public safety, right? To make things safer, to make it where first responders can be contacted more efficiently, more effectively, and make our phone, our telephone use, and our phone systems a safer tool. So there's no policing agency right now. I'm sure the FCC would be called in if somebody said, hey, these guys aren't compliant. But there's not anybody going door to door saying, hey, we're going to check on this, right? Primary reason is for safety, better 911 system. It's also, if it's to mitigate your civil liability, right? So you kind of got to sit back and go, when is this going to come to the surface? Well, today, based on what's out there today, it's going to come to the surface when there's a problem. The 911 system didn't function the way that it was supposed to. Now you're going to have a lawsuit on your hands, most likely, and that's going to come up in that court. So as you think through how you want to navigate all of these rules and all these laws, so what is the most safe we can make this for the budget that we have to utilize, and then mitigate civil liability downstream? What is our legal counsel able to argue, hey, we did the very best we could before we got to work, or we added the things we needed to, etc. One thing that comes up is, if I'm on a 911 call and that call gets disconnected, right? Typically, if you're at home, if you're on your cell phone, what happens with that call? The 911 operator calls you back. Hey, we got disconnected. If you answer, obviously you continue to call. If you don't, they play that out however they do without saying, hey, this was unable to be reached. In this instance, Ray Baum's Act says that you have to have a phone number that the 911, the PSAP, can call you back on. All right, so who has more than 100 user extensions in your district? Almost everybody in the room. So what did you just do? Oh crap. Because I just heard $30 a line times 100 lines at $3,000 a month. So all you really need in that instance, first of all, is to determine, do I need, if they call out, so I'll use Jinx as an example because we just finished setting this up. In their technology building, they essentially said, hey, if 911 is called, you can shout down the hallway. I called 911, there may be 12 phones in that building, but everybody can communicate and say there's a problem over here. So they're going to put one DID with one callback number, and they're going to program their system. When a 911 call is made, it's going to grab that DID and call out from those 12 phones. It doesn't matter which phone does it. So that if the phone is disconnected, if the call is disconnected, the operator can call back. All 12 of those phones are going to ring. somebody can answer it and they go, hey, yeah, I'm not standing beside them, but I'm in the same building. Yes, come on, let me see if we can help navigate through this, whatever it is. So they have essentially, again, achieved the spirit of the law. And it comes down to, can they mitigate civil liability in that instance? Can they argue that they have achieved what the law has asked them for? And I would say probably so. So in dealing with that, I think, does anybody have any questions as far as, how that plays out, or what that looks like, or what the point of that is? Everybody kind of following that? So as far as VIP is concerned, what we do is, it doesn't matter what phone system you're using, it doesn't matter what, so if you're using Cox or Windstream or Suddenlink, whoever it is, doesn't matter. We can actually come in and provide you SIP trunks, and what we actually would do is provide you DIDs that are, and they have to be E911 capable DIDs. So if you go, oh, well, we've already got a block of 1,000 DIDs, that's great, but if they're not E911 capable, they're not able to send out your address of those DIDs. This is where you get into how granular are you going to get with your addressing that's going to be sent out per building or per room or per floor. Then you have to go, okay, now for each one of those, I need a DID, right? You're looking at about $3 each from VIP for an E911 capable DID. So you do the math, if you need 100, you just added $300 a month. Now, there are places, and I'll use Union for example, one of the larger distributors, Union. On the surface, it looks like they're going to add $4,000 a month to their phone bill to achieve this. I cannot imagine, with the hundreds of millions of dollars nationwide that they're talking about adding in phone service, that there's not going to be some kind of a amendment that's going to come up, in the next few months. So if you want to sit back and kind of watch how this plays out, I think the main thing I would suggest is go test your 911 phones, your 911 system. Make sure that the addresses are correct as far as and that you're able to adhere to as much of Kari's law. As far as the rest of it, maybe sit back and wait 2 or 3 months and see what happens, because there's going to be a backlash on the expense. I can just almost promise you. Now, is it going to achieve anything? Time will tell. So right now, this is what the rules say. Let's go to the last slide.
Can I ask a question for you?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Two things that are in the Ray bombs that it depends on how you interpret, from
Yes,
my
sir.
understanding. You have to get dispatchable information. So location, address, building, room, level, all that. And also you must extend a phone number to them, as well as your extension must be displayed to them. So it's not just the DID, you also have to give them your extension number in there. That's my understanding of the interpretation. That is part of the dispatchable information that must be provided.
So
if you give them a DID and an extension, they can reach directly back to you without having to have a direct DID to every single phone that you're putting into your system.
for them to be able to reach your specific extension, you have to have a DID for them to call that extension back. Otherwise, you're doing essentially what Jinx has said. So yes, you're right on both counts.
Right.
So yes, what Jinx is doing is they're saying, here's the technology building, and they're providing one DID, but it's available to all of the extensions. So
Right.
Because our system is programmable at this level, they say, well, we're going to program, if somebody dials 911, it grabs that DID is only for 911 calls. It's never used for anything else.
Yeah.
So it grabs that one, calls out. Then if a PSAP does have to call back in, there's no need for them to know the extension.
Right.
It's already going to ring back to all 12 of those extensions.
Right, that's the way to get around that, but you must provide that extension to them anyway. My second question, and again, you're two different directions, you're getting at the same point.
Right.
So you're going to present that. The second thing was, does Ray Baum's require us to have a central notification point within our own system of a 911 call being placed, so that somebody within our district is automatically notified that a 911 call has gone out? Is it, and it may be Kari's that requires
Yes,
that.
Kari's law.
Yeah.
So the
it
short
requires
answer,
the internal notification so that somebody knows where that call came from.
the short answer is yes. The longer answer is, because it's Kari's law, that's where the FCC seemed a little vague on, if this is all before February 16th of 2020, if your system was installed, configured, and everything was done, it does appear that you don't have to meet that requirement. So now, again, go find your own legal counsel. What do they say about that? Because not everybody in the room has the same phone system. Some people have hosted systems, some people have on-prem, some people have hybrid systems that are, and some have fully managed, some have kind of a co-managed solution that they have a portal they can go and manage certain things. Because of all of those unknowns from our perspective, it's easier to go, this is what it appears to say. This is what our legal counsel has told us. So we did have Broken Arrow's legal counsel came back with a letter that said this is how we interpret it, and it actually did fit letter for letter with our legal counsel. So I will say there does seem to be some agreement. It doesn't seem to be as gray as, or hazy, I should say, which is a great thing. But yes, you do have to meet that requirement if it's after February 16, 2020. If your system was in there before then, now if it has the capability to do that, then yes. If you're able to have that send an email to a system administrator, a campus safety organization, whatever, yes, you have to do it. If you have to do some kind of a significant software or hardware upgrade, is the wording that the FCC used in their committee meetings, then there does appear to be an exception to that rule. So
is that notification of a system or notification to a person? Meaning
it has to be to a person. It has to be, now, it can be to, say, a CERT team, so it could be 8 people, but it has to be to somebody, and or like we said, to campus safety. So they could have a dispatch location, like at Jinx Police, Jinx Campus Police, it would go there. But
So
it does
there's
have
an
to be
even
some.
grayer area that comes to mind with me.
Okay,
And that's if you build a new building
yes, sir.
in your district.
Then it has to meet all components of Kari's law.
But you got to integrate it with a known phone system, so that would require an upgrade for the entire district.
As I said, as this plays out over the next, so right now for Kari's law and for Kari's law, all the things you actually have, so for wired handsets, you actually have until January of 2021 to meet these regulations, right? For soft phones or remote handsets, in other words, if you have an IP set hanging off the edge out of one of your, let's say one of your field houses or something, you have until January of 2022 to meet those requirements. So that's why I say some of this stuff is going to be a wait and see.
Yeah.
I don't, that's a perfect example, and one that we kind of played out in one of our brainstorming sessions, what if, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when nobody's going to know the answer to that. Right now, the answer is this. But just like you said, okay, so now which rule applies? And I think that's why the FCC, this is just my opinion, I think that's why they stayed so vague in how they interpreted that part of it, where it just kind of said, well, if it's built or installed before this date, then you kind of don't have to do this. But it doesn't say specifically you're exempt or there's an exception.
Right.
So I think that's been left open-ended very intentionally. So what I would suggest there, and we are going to be very diligent on our end, I would suggest either finding a place that will have updates to the law, let us know, and get on our email list, and we're going to actually send specific emails out as we come up with new information on this. We'll run it by our legal counsel, and then we'll send emails out saying, okay, here's the updates that we're seeing, if there are any. So, anybody else? Okay, last slide. This is the disclaimer slide. Right. We can't guarantee because, as we said, everybody's system is different, right? If you do not have, there's one thing we have been running into, not just with schools, but with private sector businesses, government entities, some district attorneys' offices. They don't understand this stuff. And so they don't understand IT, they don't understand off-site servers, they don't understand a lot of these things. So they go to the legal counsel for your school district, and it's maybe somebody who's worked with the district since 1973, and they go, we don't know, we just don't get it. If that's the case, and you need somebody who is an expert in this field, we have had great luck with Eric Underwood, that's Barrows and Grimm. I did contact them yesterday to confirm it was okay to share this information, that they would be available. They do not have any kind of that they have to recuse themselves from school districts or anything, so they're good to go as far as working with school districts. This was just a resource that I decided to put in here, just in case somebody needed to put somebody at the table that knew what they were talking about. They work with data centers off-site, so they're very well versed in our world. And that's actually who we had provide us all the interpretation of this letter that's in front of you and anything we're publishing right now. All right, so 9:25, I hit on the mark. Anybody have any questions?
So what are you offering as help towards this as a company?
So
Do you have
what I would
products?
suggest is if you're just wondering, okay, we got the information, here's this piece of paper, how does it apply, right? Give us a call, shoot us an email. You will have a very low-key, not a pressured situation, just an evaluation. Hey, here's what we can do for you. Notice he asked, I didn't even throw it out there, right? But we'll come out we'll send, and it's usually gonna be a salesperson and a sales engineer. We find it works better that way when we send the brains of the organization to actually assess what you have. And a lot of times, you're gonna have a lot of the backbone in place, and it's probably not gonna need any kind of forklift. I would say 99.9% of the time, everything's gonna be there, and you're just gonna need to add some DIDs or integrate something. You may wind up saying, well, we use, Lone Pine Telecom, and that's who we'll stick with, and great, here's how many you need, in our opinion. Again, run this by your legal counsel, let them look at it, and then, if that's what works out, if you go ahead and say, yeah, we need DIDs, y'all seem to have the best price, we can integrate those into your system. Another thing that we would bring to the table is maybe some type of redundancy as far as your phone service. Something that we do at Broken Arrow and other school districts. If there's a campus-wide emergency, something that, if they have to lock down a campus, we actually provide some SIP trunks that their phone system fails over, so that they have a number that's the information number, and those trunks become the inbound calls for everybody calling, going, hey, what's going on, right? So when those phones are ringing, we kind of control the level of traffic, but it doesn't interrupt all the other traffic that we have, going on in the district. We'll come do an evaluation for you and provide you kind of a written, here's what we found out. And if it requires a quote to achieve something, we'll give you a quote on it and go from there. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
So if we're a VIP customer, you're just gonna take care of all this for us, right?
Done, it's already done. So as it says in that letter, a lot of our customers actually already are at this level. Our systems, this isn't like we had a crystal ball. As much as I'd love to go, oh, we saw this coming 7 years ago. We actually have had this capability for several years. A lot of it's already been implemented for several years, not by any stroke of genius or crystal ball. It just was, that's just how we set it up. And so when this hit, we had very little reactive running around. I think it was maybe one customer even that we had to make some changes for. But other than that, virtually everyone's been, and we got a lot of phone calls on the front end when this letter hit people's desks calling. And the reason I know is I actually fielded every single one of those calls myself, walked them through, here's what you do. So I would say in your instance,
tickets are already generated. So for
That's what
any
I'm saying.
school
They are
districts,
out there.
any school districts that are already VIP customers, a ticket has already been generated and assigned to technicians to go into your system, make sure everything's set up. If not, on the E911 side, you will get contacted by our people. Now, we can also provide, I was just talking with Troy this morning over at Cleveland, we also can provide printouts from the system itself to give you that information of what, how the E911 was set up for each DID. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, we're going to be handling that for you, but we are going to come to you, like Chris has said, and say, okay, this is what's in place. You need to tell us how you want it set up from here, whether you want to get real granular like that or whatever. We can't make that decision for you, but we can do the work.
There is going to be a level, so I wasn't kidding, we've already taken care of it, but there is a level of interaction that is going to have to take place as far as, okay, how granular do you want to get? What do you want this to look like? And as we move forward, we'll make whatever changes we need to make. So, anybody else? Who has on-prem systems here? Who has hosted systems? Who doesn't?
Is it hybrid?
Hybrid is you guys, I think y'all are hybrid. So. And then, like, who would consider themselves rural, or like a rural district. Okay, where are you?
Lone Star.
Lone Star, okay. And who's your phone provider, as far as a company like Dollar?
Shadow.
Avato? Okay. I mean, so, I'm not gonna say we have, we don't have any customers right now that I'm aware of that we work with them on, but I'm sure we can. There's nothing, I know who they are, and I know that they are a pretty standard provider, so. Anybody else, who's from the OKC area, anybody? All right. And y'all are gonna be what, as far as provider costs?
Yeah,
Okay. How many of y'all have gone back and shopped, since the E-rate money ran out for dial tone? How many of y'all have gone back and revisited those bills? You need to.
There's no other options for us in the metro area, really. I mean,
Oh, there are,
Well,
definitely. Just,
no, not considering AT&T is,
well, no, I'm saying like, we would be an
Provider.
option. We would be an option for you for your dial tone.
right, the
We,
PRI into our area.
we can do it, no problem.
Absolutely.
And that's why I bring that up.
Yeah.
So before E-rate money ran out, back when they were still at the 40%, provision, we were actually saving districts thousands of dollars a year based on their E-rate. I mean, like when they were still able to get 40% off, we still came in and saved them thousands of dollars a year on their phone service. So I would, whether you shop it with us or shop with somebody else, you can make a big impact going back and shopping those pre-E-rate PRIs. A lot of, trust me, you are not the only district in that situation. There are lots of districts. And I mean, some of the biggest ones in the state right now, they've just been going down that road because they've been going down that road. Nobody's ever gone and looked at it. I know one we quoted the other day, their annual savings off dial tone alone, $103,000 annually. And that's because they're still, they have eliminated 3 of the PRIs that were covered by E-rate, and we're still saving them $103,000 a year. So, anybody else, any questions about anything related to that, offsite storage? What are y'all doing for redundancy as far as phone systems? Anybody have anything in place, cradle points for data, anything like that? Jump out there and share the trade secrets. So that's something that we can also offer if you have a need for any kind of redundancy, for whether it be for data, whether it be for voice. We can provide you some kind of redundancy. Like I said, probably the best thing to do is to come out, like Mark said, just have somebody come out and do a quick review of what you have. Whether it be for how these rules apply to you and your organization, or whether it be just for a review, you go, hey, can we be doing something different that's going to save you money? And again, if you use us, great. If you use somebody else, you use a current provider, that's great too. If it saves you money, I mean, yeah, we're in business to go out and make money, but if it's ultimately, what are you doing, right? You're trying to make your organization the best and save yourself money. So, we would love for you to visit the VIP, but if we wind up saving you money, just remember us when it's Christmas time and send us a card. So.